Hey ecoEXPLORERS! My name's Anna and I'm an educator at the North Carolina Arboretum. The theme for this week's BioBlitz Badge Challenge is Let's Help ID. So, what does ID mean? Well, ID is the simplified form of the word identification. Being able to identify living things is helpful since there are so many living things. The field of science that classifies living and extinct things is called taxonomy. There are 8 major groups in taxonomy. You ready for them? Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. That's a mouthful. We are going to focus on the species level, which tells you the specific name of an organism. Let's go through an example. You and me. Some ways you might be familiar to classify us is that we are animals. We are also mammals, but if you wanted to be more specific on the species level, we are humans. Now let's talk about this friend. Does anyone know its name? I know it as a roly-poly, but you might know it as a pillbug, a pill woodlouse, maybe a carpenter, or a doodlebug. These are all common names, which can get really confusing if you want to be sure you're talking about the same species. So, the one universal name for this organism is called Armadillidium vulgare. This is its scientific name, and it's based on the Latin language. This way, people from all over the world can communicate on this one species using the same ID. Now we are going to go over some clues that can help us identify some things in nature. Sometimes we can look at the organism to help with clues for identification. For instance, leaf shape can help separate oak trees from maple trees and can even distinguish within oak tree species, like scarlet oak from a white oak. Clues in other organisms could be different flower colors, different patterns of snakeskin, or different textures of lichens. Sometimes you can't see the organism, but some clues of identification could be there, like scat, tracks, or a nest. Can you think of any other clues? Identification can be tricky, so don't get discouraged. There are so many helpful tools out there. Experts, field guides, iNaturalist, and ecoEXPLORE are resources that are here to help you. Knowing some common IDs in your back pocket can be handy if you want to be a little more familiar with the nature around you. But for scientists, IDs are important information to conduct research, like looking at how species change and adapt over time. IDs can also let scientists know where a species originally came from and if it was introduced to a new area. Now that we know a bit more about identifying organisms, I'm going to introduce you to one of my fantastic co-workers who has a fancy for feathers. Take it away, Kristen.
Thanks, Anna. Hello, everyone. My name is Kristen, and I'm an environmental educator at the North Carolina Arboretum through AmeriCorps Project Conserve. I'm really excited because today I get to talk to you about my favorite hobby, birding! Birding, also known as bird watching, is simply going outside and observing birds. The first tool in our bird identification toolbox is first impressions. So, you've seen a bird. What is the very first thing that you noticed about it? Was it bright red? Was it huge? Was it flying way high up in the sky? Was it swimming in the water? All of these simple observations can help you narrow down what kind of bird it is you're looking at. If the bird hangs around, then you can begin to focus on the details. Notice the bird's overall size and shape. Think of some familiar objects, like a loaf of bread and a can of soup. Is the bird smaller than a loaf of bread, but larger than a can of soup? Is it larger than the loaf of bread? Is it smaller than the soup can? There are only so many birds that will fit into these different size categories. Paying attention to what a bird is doing can also be really helpful. If you see a bird eating roadkill, chances are pretty good that it's a crow or some kind of vulture. Birds can also do some more subtle things that help you identify them as well. For example, eastern phoebes tend to bob their tails up and down while perching. Another helpful thing eastern phoebes do is say their own name, which brings me to my favorite part of birding, listening. Learning bird songs makes identifying them so much easier and more fun. Thinking about the way that a bird's voice sounds can be really helpful too. To me, northern cardinals kind of sound like they're firing lasers. I mentioned earlier that the eastern phoebe says its name. See if you can hear it. Some birds also have songs that sound like they're saying something else. For example, the eastern towhee sounds like it's saying, "Drink your tea." And Carolina wrens sound to me like they're saying, "Cheeseburger, cheeseburger, cheeseburger." You might hear something different in the songs of these birds, and if so, that's great. As you hear a bird sing, see if you can think of a phrase that helps you remember the pattern of the song. One thing I like to do to help learn different bird sounds is to do a sit spot. All you need to do is find a nice place to sit outside, close your eyes, and listen. You can take a field journal out there if you'd like and make notes about the bird sounds you hear. As you become familiar with the sounds, try to see if you can find the bird making the sound with your eyes. One helpful tool to have is a field guide. There are also apps and websites that can serve as field guides too. One piece of advice about field guides: use them as a reference to help you identify your birds afterwards, but while you're actively looking at the bird, focus on the bird itself. The bird may only be there for a few seconds, but you can always look in your field guide afterwards. I enjoy just flipping through my field guide or app as a way to become familiar with what different species of birds look and sound like, so I can identify them more easily if I find them. So, aside from being really fun, why is birding important? Being able to identify birds and other organisms is a skill that you can use to help scientists. When your data goes to the iNaturalist website, it's there for scientists to look at and use to find patterns. Which animals are living near you? Which plants? Is there a species nobody has seen in a long time? Did that species move to a different place? These are the kinds of questions that scientists are asking, and every time you submit an observation to ecoEXPLORE, you're helping them get closer to an answer. I'd like to share one of my favorite ways that community science data has been used to help scientists. There's a website called eBird, which is really similar to iNaturalist, but it's only for birds. So many people have submitted their observations to eBird that scientists were able to put together this awesome map. This map shows how 118 different species of birds move around over the course of 1 year. Some of these birds sure make long journeys. This kind of information helps scientists see if anything is changing the bird's behavior. What's good for the birds is also good for us. So just by going outside and taking pictures to submit to ecoEXPLORE, you can help save the planet.
Thanks, Christian, for sharing some fascinating facts. Now it's time to go over the Challenge 5 guidelines. Step 1. Complete the iNaturalist scavenger hunt. Check out our ecoEXPLORE Facebook page for our newsletter titled Week 6 BioBlitz Let's Help ID. Here you'll find the scavenger hunt, along with a coloring page, lesson plans, featured ecoEXPLORers, and more. Step 2. Work with an adult with an iNaturalist account to help identify 15 organisms other ecoEXPLORers have observed. You can find observations made by other ecoEXPLORers at our ecoEXPLORE project on iNaturalist. To learn how to use iNaturalist, you can watch a video tutorial found on our website. Now it's your turn! It's super fun and rewarding to figure out exactly what species you found and to help others figure out what they found. Also, tune into ecoEXPLORE's Facebook Live every weekday at 2 p.m. to see some exploring in action and maybe get a little inspired. Good luck, have fun, keep exploring.